Good day, grade sixes. So we're going to start off this term to talk, and we're going to talk about matter and material. So our everyday life consists out of matter, and matter is everything around us. The clothes you wear, the desk you are sitting on, the school bag you are carrying around, everything consists out of matter. So we can say that matter is material and material is matter. Okay, so matter consists out of particles. And particles are the smallest part in which we can break down matter. Okay, so matter can actually, we can find matter in three phases. We can find matter in solids, we can find them in liquids, or we can have gases. So if I have a picture of these three phases, the particles will, the properties and how the particles will stick together, if I can be able to see them in a solid, they will look like this. In a liquid, the particles will stick together like this, and in a gas, the particles will be far apart from one another like this. The reason why we have that is to show you that the particles are actually constantly moving around. So particles are the smallest. There are spaces between the particles in matter, and that is why we have the different characteristics or properties rather of this three phases. So let us have a better look at this. I'm going to talk about compress, press together. The word compress means press together. Particles are the smallest part of a substance. The definition of matter is the building blocks of all materials on earth, and that is liquids, that is gases, and that is solids. And density talks about how close particles are from one another. Okay, so let us just have a look here. Solids, that is the solid substance. The particles are arranged in solids, liquid, or gases. A liquid can be where the particles are further from one another. I think about water. Water can flow, and that's why the particles in water are a bit farther from it apart. And then in gases, gases also have their properties because particles are very far from one another in a gas. And it doesn't have a fixed shape as well. So let us go deeper and look more in detail to the characteristics of each one of these phases. Firstly, we're going to talk about solids. Solids cannot be changed. The form of a solid cannot be changed. Okay, so it's got a fixed shape. If I think about the desk you are sitting on, if I think about the book you have, I think about the prit that is inside of your pencil case, particles cannot move past each other in a solid. They cannot be compressed. They have a fixed volume and a high density. So this is the properties of a solid. As we look deeper into the properties of each one of those. A liquid, if we talk about the liquid, the picture above shows us about the liquid, how the particles are arranged in a liquid. They take up the form of a container. So if you throw water into a jar or into a bottle, it takes the shape of the bottle. Particles can move, pass from each other, so it means they cannot be compressed. That's why liquids cannot be compressed if you try to compress water. Although we use them in when we talk about hydraulics. Hydraulics works with liquids and it cannot be compressed, so it can shift the power from one place to another. A fixed volume and a medium density also. Then gases, if we look at gases, this is the picture when you see gases. The particles of gases fills the whole container. They can move far from one another. Gases fill the whole container. They can be compressed. If you think about a balloon, you can press the balloon. If you think about a ball can be kicked. If you think about a rinse, when you have a syringe, you can press if you put your finger on the front point, you can compress the air inside of a syringe. And also it doesn't have a fixed volume, and it's got a low density. So that is the first properties of solids, liquids and gases. So we go on with the properties also in solids. If we look here again, particles are very close to each other. There's very small spaces in between them. They can move, they cannot move freely, and also they vibrate in a fixed position. So you will see that solids also always have a fixed position and a fixed shape. And then liquids, if we look at about liquids again, liquids, the particles are close to each other. There's bigger spaces in between the particles, not as small as there is at solids. They can move around freely and vibrate. That is why liquids can flow. If you think about water, when you spill the glass or the glass falls from the table, the water is flowing out of the glass. Then lastly, a gas. If you think about a gas particles far from one another. There's big spaces in between, and the particles can move quickly and freely around. If we want to change the phases of these of matter, it is to do with temperature. Here we have solid. You think about ice, for example. If we want to change ice to a liquid, that is the solid form of water, we want to change ice into a liquid by the process of melting. Water becomes a liquid. If we heat it further, the water becomes steam, a gas form. And if I want to reverse the whole process by taking the steam, making it a liquid again, I can just condense it. I cool it down, then I condense it. It becomes a liquid again. If I freeze it further, if I put it in the freezer, I can make it a solid again. So this is how I change the phases of matter. Okay, so I'm just gonna repeat what I've said here. When water is in a solid, it can become a liquid by melting. It can change into steam by heating the liquid. Now it is a gas. By cooling it down, I can make it a liquid again by the condensation, and then the liquid can be turned into a solid when it gets freezed. Okay, so we think about water in this case. So I hope you have learned something about matter and material and the different phases. So make sure that you understand the properties of matter and material, and also the three phases: solids, liquids and gases, their properties of each one. It will be important as we go along in this term.